A 65-year-old man steps off a boat in Venice. Not his first time here, his third time actually. He's seen everything. Been famous since he was 14 years old. He is the landscape painter of his time. And this is his third trip here, his last trip here. And I think it's the first time that he actually saw it. Now skip forward to 1955. Another artist, one that actually studied a little bit of painting before he ever picked up a camera, arrives in the same city. Some critics called him a painter with a camera, and honestly, he took it as a compliment. And that was Ernst Haas. 115 years apart, same city, same lights, both of them doing the same thing. If this is your first time here, welcome to you. Here we look at all the great masters from the past, every era, every medium, and look at what they saw and just see how it might help us see what we might just be missing. If you're returning, appreciate you very much. You know, I mean that. And hey, let's go take a walk. Today we're going to look at two artists, one with a brush, one with a camera, who both landed on the same answer to the same question. What do you actually see? Not what's there, what do you see? And at the end, I got three things for you to try that just might make that question a little bit more real. And at the very least, along the way, give you something to think about. So, Turner, born in London, 1775. By the time he's 14 years old, he's enrolled at the Royal Academy of Arts. By his 20s, he's become the landscape painter. Epic landscapes, majestic seascapes, you know the work. You know, these paintings, some of them massive in size, theatrical to the point where the sky and the sea just seem to come alive on the canvas. But and we talked about this in one of the previous videos about Sargent, is something else was building inside of him while he was doing all of this. Something he couldn't quite get to yet, but I think he did on the third trip to Venice. His first trip to Venice was in 1819. He'd wanted to go for a long time before that, but Napoleon had other ideas about people traveling around. And I think the first trip just kind of overwhelmed him a little bit, honestly. He came from, traveling all over England where he had valleys, hills, mountains, trees, endless landscapes. He gets to Venice, he's pretty much got three things. He's got water, buildings, and sky. But he did do exactly what one thing he wanted to do, see the work of Jacopo Robusti, or as we know him, the Venetian painter of Tintoretto. Yeah, I probably messed a little bit of that up, but we're doing the best we can. This guy painted on such a large scale that was just unprecedented for the time and something Turner just definitely had never done. But Turner had the gift of looking outside his own world to see how it could benefit to bring it into his. Same thing with Sergeant Monet. We talked about him showing up at Monet's house with no paint, but complaining about there was no black. If you caught that video, you know exactly what I mean. But if you missed it, I'll put a link around here somewhere. Check it out if you had time. Turner came back to Venice in 1833, and then one more time, his last time in 1840. 65 years old, and I think that's when it finally opened up for him. Look at these watercolors. They're barely paintings of buildings. They're barely paintings of water. What he was chasing was something his critic John Ruskin described as the color of air, the weight of haze, the temperature of light. Turner said it himself, "My business is to paint what I see, not what I know is there." He knew the buildings were there. He knew the boats were there. He just didn't care. He painted what his eyes actually registered, atmosphere dissolving form. His critics called it unfinished. He called it honest. I call it creating something real. In some of his very last works, like Norham Castle Sunrise, barely anything there left but light. People thought he'd lost it. I think he's furthest ahead he's ever been. Now, over 100 years later, Ernst Haas, born in Vienna, 1921. Studied painting a little bit before he ever picked up a camera. Wanted to be either an explorer or a painter. His words. Then he said he found photography and it let him be a little bit of both. That's a pretty cool origin story if I've ever heard one. If you'll indulge me for just a minute, I'd like to throw a little paragraph on the screen, just read from it. His words that I just find pretty much perfect. I never really wanted to be a photographer. It slowly grew out of the compromise of a boy who desired to combine two goals, explorer or a painter. I wanted to travel and see and experience, What better profession could there be than one of a photographer, almost a painter in a hurry, overwhelmed by too many constantly changing impressions? But all my inspirational influence came much more from all the arts than from photo magazines. Appreciate the indulgence on that one. That one just kind of special to me as it kind of just mirrors my soul and my life. Here's a good story I want to share. In 1946 in Vienna, he got his first camera by trading about 10 kilograms of margarine. I'm not sure what that was worth at the time, but it was worth about equal to a Rolleiflex. Good trade, Ernst. In today's world, I'm pretty sure 10 kilograms of margarine, yeah, I spent more than that on an ND filter. Within a decade, he's in the company of Robert Capa, Henri Cartier-Bresson. He joins Magnum Photos, Sears Company. And while his peers are all shooting black and white, documentary, photojournalism, street photography, he's pulled to something else, toward color, something more felt than recorded. When he arrived in Venice in 1955, he didn't try to freeze it. He let it move, let it breathe, slowed the shutter down a little bit, blurred a little bit, took reflections. He wasn't just documenting Venice, he was transforming it. He once said, "Bored with the obvious reality, I find my fascination in transforming it into a subjective point of view without touching my subject. I want to come to the moment when, through pure concentration of seeing, the composed picture becomes more made than taken." More made than taken? Take that one in for just a second. In 1958, Life magazine published The Magic of Color and Motion, where he used the slow shutter speeds to create these abstract, painterly movements of motion. That's when some critics started calling him painter with a camera. Some of them didn't mean it kindly, but he took it just the same. A colleague of his at Magnum, Mr. Bondi, who actually knew him, worked alongside of him, actually said one time, he said he had the eye of a painter and the soul of a poet. That was 1962. The world was just catching up to where Haas already was. So here's where it gets interesting to me, because when you put these two side by side, the painter and the photographer, a century apart, what you find just isn't similarity, it's the same conclusion reached from opposite directions. Same city, same light, same answer, 115 years apart. They both stood in Venice and said, "I'm not going to show you a postcard. I'm going to show you what it felt like to be here." And here's the thing. Both of them have done the work. Turner studied at the Royal Academy. He knew all the basics, knew all the rules. He could paint anything he wanted to. Haas had worked alongside some of the best photojournalists in the world. Both of them knew the rules cold, but they deliberately chose to go somewhere else. You can only break the rules if you know them first. That's not a cliche. A lot of people say it, but these two guys, they just proved it. Here's what I think they both understood. Most of us, and I'm including me here, forget the second we lift up a camera, the camera sees what's there. You see what you're there for. Those aren't the same thing. Turner knew it. Haas knows it. And once we know it, it changes what we create. So here's three things we can actually try. One from Turner, one from Haas, and one from, maybe a combination of both of them. First one, threshold light. This one's Turner's. Turner painted what the light was doing, not what it was hitting. So go out at the edge of the day, dawn or dusk, that 20-minute window when everything's in between and the light is temporary. And here's the rule. Don't photograph what the light's landing on. Photograph the light itself. And ask yourself, if the light changed right now, would the image fall apart? Well, if the answer is yes, then nice. Second one, intentional blur. This one's Haas. Not your intentional blur that, way overdone, simple painting with street lights and this stuff like that. Find something that you blur just long enough to where it makes it right. It doesn't have to be a massive blur. Really look at some of Haas's photographs sometimes, They're blurred, but the action was so fast, especially some of his horses. They're blurred just enough. And I think just enough to where he exactly said what he saw. Not to just create a cool effect. I guess you could say, kind of, let's blur it with intention. We want to make our viewer feel exactly the way we felt when we took it. The third one I like to call the No-Viewfinder Walk. It's a little bit from both of them. Turner sketched from memory and mood. Haas even said, a photo should be more made than taken, just through pure concentration of seeing. So the next time you're out with the camera, leave your camera down a little bit. Don't look through it. Walk for about 10 minutes. Just walk around, look, see. Decide what you're going to photograph before you ever take a picture of it. Build the frame in your head before you ever raise the camera up. And when you do, see if it matches what you saw. I've done this, and more often times than not, it doesn't match. And that just proves the point. Because there's a gap between what you actually see and what the camera sees. That gap right there, that's where the vision lives, and that's where the work is. Next time, we're going to stay in Venice for a little bit longer. I got a little bit more I want to share about Tintoretto that I found out. And I have a photographer in mind I think it'd be pretty cool. Let me know in the comments if you think you know who that might be. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. And as always, let's go create something real.